All right. Welcome to Zachary Carter TV. The David Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade pay-per-view event. It was a great event, and that's what we're going to be discussing. I got a lot of thoughts, my reaction, my breakdown on all of the fight. So let's begin. Let's start off with the main event. Now, this fight was supposed to be a clash of style, which it was, but Mike Tyson gave Benavidez the moniker, the Mexican Monster, and he proved that moniker was correct. David Benavidez is a Mexican monster, that's for sure. His offense was just spectacular. But not only was his offense spectacular, he showed pretty good defense against Andrade. Andrade fought well. He really did. He fought well for the first 3 rounds. I believe he won the first 3 rounds. He was doing very well. He was being very aggressive. He didn't want to be on the receiving end of Benavidez onslaught, so he had a plan to take the fight to Benavidez. And you know, I was saying if he could keep up the pace, if he could keep it up, then it was a pretty good plan. However, Benavidez eventually caught up with him and was able to drop him in the 4th round. One of the biggest things that I got from the fight is just how Benavidez isn't just an offensive machine. He's a very good athlete. David Benavidez is a very good athlete. He has, we all know he has exceptional hand speeds because he loves to rattle off those combinations, those highlight reel combinations. But he has good footwork. He has good feet. I mean, he could pop on it off the line, and he really is a very good athlete. I'm from Chicago, and I love Michael Jordan, and he's the greatest basketball player. But Michael Jordan was 6'6". Now, just think if Michael Jordan was 6'2", would he be Michael Jordan, or would he simply be a very good basketball player? Your physical attributes, it matters. Your physical attributes matters. And David Benavidez, he's a huge man. He's a big dude for the 165-pound weight class. He uses his size to his advantage, and which he should. You supposed to use your physical God-given abilities, your God-given talent to your advantage. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do it. And Benavidez does that very well. Benavidez, what really struck me is those long arms of his. Gosh, dog, they are so long. So he could shoot out his jab for such long distance, but what really gets me is that he could shoot out his lead right hand at a distance that you just don't expect. He just shoots off that lead right hand. And against a lefty like Andrade, the lead right hand is kryptonite. And it's sure enough, Benavidez's right hand was Andrade's kryptonite that night, and it took him out. A couple of thoughts. Benavidez is sneaky. He's sneaky good. Generally, you set up your right hand, your power hand, if you're an orthodox fighter, with your jab. You use your jab to set up your power hand. But what Benavidez does is he sets misdirections up, and it's very subtle because he was able to shoot out that lead right hand so quick, so unexpectedly, that I had to really look at him. Like, that lead right hand was coming out just like that jab. So it was very confusing, to Andrade, because is it a jab or is it a lead right hand? So what Benavidez does is very subtle. The first 3% of his movement, it looks like a jab, but is actually a disguise for the lead right hand. I believe that's why his lead right hand is so effective. He makes the first 3 to 5% of his body motion looks exactly the same. So what I'm saying is the first 3 to 5% of his motion of his jab and the motion of his lead right hands looks the same. So that lead right hand comes out just as poppy and as quick as the jab, and it just totally throws off any opponent that Benavidez would have. You couple that with the fact that Benavidez is so long, and he has so much range with both of his jab and his lead right hand. It's it's just such an advantage. It's just really hard to deal with. It really is. And I tell you what, I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but I'm not sure if Canelo's going to take that fight. Canelo might just look at Benavidez and say that's just too much. I think I'll go in another direction and make just as much money somewhere else for an easier fight. I hate to say it, but Benavidez is a lot to handle, and I don't know if Canelo would want to take up that challenge. Benavidez, a lot of people say he's there to be hit. He's easy to be hit, but Benavidez has good defense. He has a good peekaboo style defense, and he has good foot movement. He'll pop out off the line. He's just not going to stand there like his brother and just stay on the line and take punches. David could slide backwards off the line and avoid punches using his feet and his footwork, and he'll cover up. He won't slip as much, because he's tall, so he's not going to really rely on his head movement for defense, but he'll use his feet and blocking for defense, and it's fairly effective. It's a good counterpuncher, but Benavidez' offense is his main strength because, again, you use your physical gifts, and his arms are so long, and he can hit you from all types of angles from a range where you just normally would not expect. So it's really tough. Benavidez is such a tough matchup. It really is. Getting back to the fight itself, like I say, the first 3 rounds, Andrade, he did fairly well. Andrade is a tough matchup. It's a tough matchup himself. I could see why he was being avoided because he's extremely awkward. He's a big dude himself. He's big, tall, southpaw who's super awkward. I mean, he is super awkward. Andrade doesn't run like, he's a mover, but he doesn't necessarily run. He uses his footwork to circle, to glide off the line in a re-attack. So he's not really a runner, but he is a mover. And the way he moves, he's so awkward. He crouches, and he's a southpaw, and it's just weird. It really is weird. It took Benavidez about 3.5 rounds to kind of get a feel. So even though Andrade lost the fight, I'm not sure if this is going to change the way people think about him as far as are they going to step up and fight him. Andrade is 35 years old, and I don't believe he's in his physical prime. I think he's close to it, but he's on a down slope of his career. So maybe these younger super middleweight would now take on the challenge of fighting Andrade. I believe what his name? David Morrell. I believe he'll fight anybody. So that would be a good fight. That'd be a really good fight. Caleb Plant versus Andrade. I would like to see that. I think that would be a good fight that they could set up. Andrade, he did good. It's not that Andrade didn't perform. It was the exceptional ability of Benavidez. Benavidez is exceptional. He is a great fighter for all combat athletes, not just boxers, but for combat athletes. There's what they call the triad of performance. I didn't make this up. I got it from a gentleman named Zach T-Lander, and it makes a lot of sense. I like the concept of the triad of performance. Hope I'm saying it right. I might not be saying it right, but I'll give you the gist of what the triad of performance is. So you have the triad, which is a triangle, essentially, and you have 3 sides of the triangle. Okay, so on one side of the triangle, you have your physiology, your strength, your height, your endurance, your chin. Do you have a chin? Your power, hand speed, foot speed, reaction time, everything that goes into your physical being, your physical talent, your physical self. And that plays a huge role. If you give it a range from, let's say, 1 to 5, 5 being the max, 1 being the lowest. And we're talking about relative because not absolute. So relative and absolute is different. David Benavidez relative to his weight class is huge. Now, is David compared to a heavyweight fighter huge? No, he's not huge. A person like Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is huge on an absolute scale. You know, no matter who he's compared with, he's huge, even relative to other heavyweights. Tyson Fury is a huge man relative to other heavyweight and absolute because he's the biggest man out there. Again, getting back to the triad of performance and relative to his weight class, David Benavidez is huge. He's a huge man. And so I give him a 5 as far as his physicality, you know, his physical ability. Yeah, he has a lot of great physical attributes. He keeps coming. He looks like he has a great gas tank. He's big, he's rangy, he fast hands, pretty good feet, great size, endurance. I mean, he's a 5-tool player, you know, taking a saying from baseball, David Benavidez is a 5-tool player. That's one side of the triangle. The second side of the triangle is what they call specificity, your skills, your technique and your skills. So, you know, Mayweather says skills pay the bills, and that's true. 1 through 5, you can't deny Benavidez punching ability, his ability to rattle out great combinations. He's able to punch from all types of angles. Couple that with his physical ability, those punches can come from all types of angles and from a range that most people can't pull those punches off from. That's crazy to handle. I mean, that's just crazy to handle. Just from those two sides of the triangle alone, and at a high. So I would say his skills ability is a 4 or a 5. So you have 2 maximum scores on 2 of the 3 sides of the triangle, and you're a damn good fighter. You're a damn good fighter. And this performance against Andrade is solidified himself as a dominant performer. That's 2 sides of the triangle of the performance triad. So the last side of the performance triad is the most underrated side. It's the side that most people don't particularly think about because it's harder to see. You know, it's harder to put a score on it, and if you're not looking for it, you might not see. But that's the psychology, where your head is at. You don't see it oftentimes because, you know, your psychology, you know, it's a part your character. Are you showing up to the gym every day? Do you have discipline? I mean, this is something that it's not necessarily obvious for the layperson to see. I mean, is your discipline correct? Are you going to get your butt up at 5 in the morning in the snow or in the rain when it's cold or when it's hot and get your butt up and do your road work? Are you going to show up? Are you going to show up in the gym every day? Are you going to be on time? Thanksgiving, are you going to indulge in that great Thanksgiving food, or are you going to be disciplined? I mean, that's character. That's your psychology. Look at somebody like a Bernard Hopkins, who lived a very disciplined lifestyle. You know, most people say Bernard Hopkins, you know, his physical ability didn't blow anybody away. No, nobody said Bernard Hopkins' physical ability blew anybody away. I'm sure, yeah, Bernard Hopkins had really good physical ability, but it didn't blow anybody away. It wasn't low by any stretch, but it wasn't a Roy Jones Jr. type of physical ability. You understand what I'm saying? But his psychology give him that score of a 5, of a max. He was very disciplined, and that discipline carried him in having a great career at an advanced age. He took care of his body like a well-tuned race car. Like, he understood what he needed to do to be a great fighter, and he had the discipline and the psychology and the mental focus to make sure that, you know, he was a great fighter. He performed, and he had, you know, high levels of skill. So on those 2 sides of the triangle, he had very high scores, and on the physical ability, he had, I would say, above average. Now, if you have, you know, great scores on all 3 sides of the triangle, then as a combat athlete, you're probably going to be a great fighter, an elite fighter. David Benavidez is an elite fighter. David Benavidez is on the top of the food chain. He is elite. He is an elite fighter because on all 3 sides of the performance triad, he has a high score. His physical attributes are through the roof. It is at a max score. He has great skills. Is at a, either at a max score or near max score. And you couple his great skills with his physical attributes, it's rough. Now, David Benavidez, he is driven. You could tell just by how his conversation, the way he talks, how he acts, how he trains. So he has a max score on his psychology. So on the triad of performance, David Benavidez is an elite fighter. I think a lot of people recognize this. A lot of people that don't want to fight him because they understand he has no weaknesses as far as his performance is concerned. I mean, you have to be an elite fighter to beat this man. I say a Demetrius Andrade is an elite fighter. Demetrius Andrade is an elite fighter, but he just is not as great as Benavidez. It took an elite fighter to beat another elite fighter. David Benavidez is an elite fighter. If you look at the triad with Demetrius Andrade, okay? If David Benavidez physical side of the triad is a 5, I would give Andrade a 4. And like I say, this is relative. Okay? I would give him a 4. If you look at skill-wise, Benavidez is a 5. I would give Andrade a 5, skill-wise. Okay? And if you look at the psychology-wise, I would give Benavidez a 5 and Andrade a 4. Okay? So 2 4s and a 5 on the triad of performance is an elite fighter that would beat pretty much everyone. But Benavidez have 3 5s on my scale. 3 5s beat 2 4s and a 5. So Andrade is a great fighter. I still believe that. I have to think about that, but I'm just going to say I favorite Andrade over Plant. But I have the right to change my mind. What about against the current Charlo? Would I favorite Charlo over Andrade? That'd be a good fight. Charlo impressed me, and we're gonna talk about that next. Charlo can box. He really can, but I believe Andrade is so awkward that I believe I would favor Andrade over Charlo. Again, I reserve the right to change my mind. David Benavidez is an amazing fighter. The Mexican Monster is an appropriate moniker for Benavidez. He's like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how you would stop him. Would I favorite? No, I would definitely favor not Canelo. I would definitely favor David Benavidez over Canelo, and I really like Canelo. I really like how he fights. Canelo does have good power, but I don't believe he has enough power to stop Benavidez. I would favor Benavidez to beat Canelo. I think Canelo can hold up. Canelo has a good chin. I believe he's very stout. Man, that would be a big fight. That would be such a big fight. Canelo versus Benavidez. That would be a record-breaking fight. They go ahead and make that fight. Canelo needs to go ahead and make that fight because, that would be a record-breaking fight. I paid for the Benavidez-Andrade fight. I sure as heck would pay good money for the Canelo-Benavidez fight. And everybody else would too. So, Canelo, you need to go ahead and step up, take that fight, win, lose, or draw. You got to do it for the good of boxing. You need to do it for the good of boxing, for the good of the sport. Canelo, you have to give back to the sport. I know it's easier said than done. You talk about getting into the ring with literally, they call a person a monster. So I understand, but the sport has gave so much to you. You have to give back to the sport. David Benavidez was just an amazing performance. A lot of people say Benavidez is flat foot. He don't have any defense, but he he does have good defense. He showed really good defense. His defense was very sound. Just one of the reasons going back to the fight why Benavidez is so good is I believe he's a master of deception. What I mean about that master of deception, I believe he has the ability to disguise which punch is coming, or he has a subtle ability to make you think one punch is coming, but then all of a sudden a totally different punch is coming and you're caught by surprise. Really, he has that subtle ability, and that's a subtle ability that's not easily, you can't easily see it in a fight. It just stunned me when I was watching his fight against Andrade. It's just how effective his lead right hand was coming out, and just how quick and fast his lead right hand shot out. And it shot out. He was using his lead right hands very similar as if he was throwing a jab. And I started paying attention, and it's a subtle ability. The first 5% of his body movement, he shows that first 5%. He makes you look like it's a jab, and then he flick the right hand, and it just catches his opponents off guard. And I believe he could do that with his hooks and his uppercuts, and I believe that's why he was able to catch Andrade in the 4th round with that devastating right hand. It was a devastating right hand because Benavidez has a great ability to deceive his opponent and to disguise what punches is coming. And that's a hell of an ability when you got the size and the physical attributes of a David Benavidez. So he's a problem. David Benavidez is a problem. He's a problem. His talent is undeniable. You know, he's beating up everyone. And let's do it, Canelo. Let's do it. All right, so let's get into the co-main event, the bout between Jermall Charlo versus Jose Benavidez Jr. It was a very interesting fight. I was very interested in seeing how would Jermall Charlo perform. I just say he boxed very well. Jermall Charlo boxed extremely well. It was a very good performance by Jermall. I discussed the triad of performance when it comes to combat athletes. You have your physical, your physiology. You have your specificity, which is your skill and technique. And lastly, you have your psychology. And so obviously, I was very concerned about Jermall Charlo's psychology. I was concerned about where his head was at. You know, was he going to be into the fight? I mean, let's be real. Jermall Charlo missed weight. He missed weight. Not only did he miss weight, when he came back for the second weigh-in, he went up. He went up. Jermall Charlo is a middleweight champion, and he didn't even make the middleweight limit of the weight. So I was very concerned about Jermall Charlo's where his head was at. Was he going to be able to perform? But you know, Jermall Charlo has Al Heyman and the crew on his side, and Al Heyman is in the crew are probably the best in the game. They're the best in the business. Very smart people. There's a reason why Jose Benavidez Jr. was chosen to be the comeback fight for Jermall Charlo. I mean, he was tailor-made for Charlo. He was shot in the leg, so his mobility is somewhat limited. He would not take a step back. He is coming to fight. He's going to get on that line, and he's going to press forward, and he's going to come and fight. Jose Benavidez Jr., you know, he impressed me because he's so tough. He is so tough. Jose Benavidez Jr. is a tough dude. That's for real. But that's what made it a good fight because Benavidez Jr., he was going to come to fight. So Jermall Charlo is the naturally bigger man, the naturally stronger man, more skillful, and it showed. It showed. You know, Benavidez Jr. could not overcome Charlo's size. Charlo was bigger, stronger, was able to, his punches had a lot of weight on him. It had a lot of weight on him. The fact that Benavidez Jr., he was a smaller man, but he wasn't the faster man. If you're going to give up size, you better have it in speed. If you're going to give up size and strength, you should be at the very least strong, faster and quicker than your opponent. And for sure, Jose Benavidez Jr. was not quicker than Charlo. And it's not like Charlo was exceptionally fast. But if we look at on that triad of performance, Charlo on the physical side, relative to Jose Benavidez Jr. was let's say relative. I'm not saying he was a 5, but let's say Charlo was a 4 and Benavidez was a 3 physically. As far as skill and ability, Charlo was at a 5. Jose Benavidez was at a 3. And if we come down to psychology, I say Charlo was at a 3 and Benavidez was at a 4. So Charlo dominated the fight. Jose Benavidez Jr. maybe won 2 rounds, maybe two out of the 10 rounds, and that's a maybe. I give him 1, but maybe 2. Charlo showed great skills. I tell you what, Charlo's jab was exceptional. During the fight, I was talking to Zachary. I told him no matter what was going on in Charlo's life, once you get in the ring, Charlo been fighting since he was a child, 10, 11, 12 years old. He's been fighting, probably more than half his life. So once he get in the ring, it's like riding a bike. I haven't ridden a bike. I personally haven't ridden a bike in 15 years, but I could hop on a bike and bust a wheelie and start riding, So I felt that no matter what was going on, that made him took that long break off. Once you get in the ring and get punched in the face, everything is going to come back to him. You know what I'm saying? You got somebody punching you in your face. You're not going to be thinking about, the BS that was happening in your life. You're going to be concerned about this big dude punching you in your face. And you're going to start punching him back. And that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. It's just like riding a bike again. Charlo, it was just like riding a bike again. Charlo impressed me as far as his ability. Let's talk about the fight a little bit. Charlo has an educated left hand. Oh man, it's educated. Charlo is really a good boxer. He has a lot of skills. And his educated left hand. So what I mean by that is, Charlo throws jabs, double jabs, triple jabs. He varies his jabs. He don't just throw it, toward the head. He throws it at the body. He throws it from slightly different angles. So he's not predictable, with his jab. So, if you're predictable with your jab and you just throw it in one zone, then you're going to be countered. But, if you think his jab is coming up top, all of a sudden he'll throw a body jab. And if you think it's a single jab, he'll pop out a double or triple jab on you. So Charlo has a great jab. He knows how to use his jab, and his jab sets everything else up for him. Now, secondly, Charlo is great at hooking off the jab. Oh man, Charlo is great at hooking off the jab. That's why I say Charlo has an educated left hand. He'll pop you with that jab, double jab. And then all of a sudden he'll hook off that jab, and it's fluid. You know, it's fluid. He could seamlessly hit you with a hook right behind the jab, and it's a really good punch of his. He used it as an advantage, and the biggest thing about that is, you know, you basically looking for the 1-2, but he hit you with the 1-3. So he's not predictable, because he will hit you with the 1-2. So you're confused. He boxing is manipulation of distance and timing. On defense, I'm trying to pick up my opponent's timing, pick up his rhythm. I need to time his punch so I could counter or defend. And by Charlo having an educated left hand, it's hard to pick up his timing. So it's hard to defend him. It's hard to counterpunch with him. You know? So Charlo has an educated left hand. And so I say he could hook off the jab, but, toward the later round, he was jabbing and he was throwing left uppercuts off the jab. So he wasn't just hooking off the jab. He was, jabbing and occasionally he'd toss in that left uppercut. So Charlo's has an educated left hand that was very impressive, very impressive. All right. So let's talk about Charlo's right hand. Charlo has a nice straight right hand or a short right hand up top, because he knows he has his jab set it up. So he has a really good right hand, decent right hand up top. But the right hand, the punch from his right hand that impresses me is his right uppercut. Oh man, it's devastating. And Charlo has a great sense of timing with that right uppercut. Man, so he'll pull, counter, and he'll pull or a slip, and he'll shoot that right uppercut in, and it's a heck of a punch. It's a heck of a punch. Eddie Futch, that's one of his tenets of boxing is, once you get on the inside or you slip, you roll that shoulder, and you come with that right uppercut generally to the body. So a lot of his Eddie Futch trained fighters roll and shoot that uppercut to the body. Charlo slip, roll, he'll shoot that uppercut, but not just to the body. He'll shoot it up top, and it's a great punch. I was very impressed with that right uppercut. Charlo's right uppercut is a thing of beauty. Something that any aspiring boxer should definitely study in it. I'm sure going to study it, see if I can impart it to my fighters. That was very impressive. Charlo's ability was very impressive. Charlo's, as far as physically, he did well, but if you look at his body, he was nowhere near as lean. When you take 30 months off or so, 2.5 years off, or however long he was off, he didn't make weight, so he just didn't look lean. He didn't look explosive, particularly explosive. He had a good ability. His physical was good, but to me, it wasn't particularly. It seemed like he lost a half a step of explosiveness. It wasn't explosive. Hopefully he could get that back. It's his first fight back, so that's understandable. He had to work himself back in shape. There's a reason why they pulled David Benavidez up a weight class to fight him. That's just part of the game. So hopefully Charlo will be able to regain his explosiveness because his skill is there. His boxing ability is there. Hopefully he's turned the corner or whatever issues he had. So hopefully his psychology will rebound and return to form, because he's a really good fighter, great fighter. And I really want to, I'm a fan of boxing, so I want to see great fighters and great fighters fight. Boxing missed Charlo, and boxing is better when you have both Charlos fighting. It's better. So I'm rooting for Charlo. I want to give it up to Jose Benavidez Jr. He is a tough man. He really is. He's a tough man. He's a warrior. He put on a good fight. It was, the fight was a good fight. And it was a good fight because, he it takes two to tango. He made it a good fight. So hats off to Jose Benavidez Jr. for stepping up, taking the fight, meeting that challenge. He didn't complain when Charlo missed weight. He didn't complain about fighting a bigger man. He dared to be great. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in his loss. You know, I hope to see him. Fighting his, maybe somebody closer to his size. You know, so hats off to him. All right, now let's talk about the fight that my favorite fight. We're gonna talk about my favorite current fighter, and that's Subriel Matias. Now I know he's not super popular amongst the casual fans, but this has to be the most exciting fighter today. He really is. He is an amazing fighter. He's like a Terminator. He just keeps coming and coming, and he wears you down. He's relentless, and he eventually stops you. It was Subriel Matias versus Shohjahon Ergashev. And Ergashev is a southpaw with power. Ergashev knocked out a whole lot of his opponent. He has good power. He went going into the fight. He was 23-0 with 20 knockouts. So you got 20 knockouts. You have power. Going into the fight, Matias was like 20-1 with 20 knockouts. He knocked out everybody, all his opponents. I believe he was 19-1 with 19 knockouts at the time. The one loss that he had, he avenged that loss, and he knocked out his opponent, while avenging the earlier loss. So Matias is an amazing fighter. Matias versus Ergashev was going to be a clash of styles because Ergashev is a outfighter. He likes to fight at range. He likes to, line you up with his right hand, with his right jab, and slam you with his, low and left hand, both up top and to the body. He's pretty good at throwing that. His left hand is his power hand, so he's pretty good at throwing it to the body. I've seen a fight where he stopped an opponent with a nice right hand to the body, just totally dropped his opponent. His opponent was out. Again, Ergashev likes to fight at range. He likes to fight on the outside, but Matias he's a unicorn when it comes to boxing. This man, he wants to get in your chest. Matias reminds me of a modern version of Henry Armstrong. Henry Armstrong is just all in your chest. He smothers you. He just totally smothers you. The thing about Henry Armstrong is he had that chopping right hand, whereas Matias, his punch, his damaging punch is his chopping left hook. Matias gets in your grill. He gets on the line, all in the pocket. And he's throwing right uppercuts and chopping left hands. And it's just a thing of beauty. It's just a thing of beauty. I believe with the stoppage, with the corner stoppage of this fight, Matias has now had 5 corner stoppages in a row. He makes opponents quit. Subriel Matias makes opponents quit. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. He's relentless in his pressure. Just relentless in his pressure. Holy cow. And he makes you fight his fight. Again, Ergashev, his preferred distance is on the outside. He wants to fight on the outside. He wants to fight at range. And from the first round, especially starting in the second round, he was in the pocket. He was in the pocket fighting Matias' fight. And you just can't help it because Matias forces you to fight his fight. Boxing is the manipulation of distance and timing to control the line. All right. And it's not just distance to stay off the line. It's distance to get on the line or to stay where you want to be, your preferred range. And Matias's preferred range is in the pocket. And Matias is able to manipulate distance to get into the pocket and stay in the pocket. So it was just what can I say about this fight? It boiled down to could Ergashev fight at his preferred range, or was Matias was going to force the fight in his preferred range? And we found the answer to that fairly quick. Matias, quickly within this first round, be honest with you, he brought the fight into the pocket. He made the fight at his preferred range. Now, Ergashev won the first round, and generally, all the fights that I've watched Matias fighting leading up to this fight, Matias generally loses the first round. He generally wants to get a feel of where your power's at, So he loses the first round. He loses the first round 9 times out of 10. He's going to lose the first round. He's going to lose the first 2 rounds, maybe the first 2 or 3 rounds, and then he'll start catching up with you, and then there's all she wrote. Matias generally catches up with you and just wears you down, beats you down, and wear you down, and beats you down. And he knows how to fight in the pocket, whereas most people don't. Most people are trained to fight at a nice distance, and Matias, he just breaks all convention as far as the norm in boxing. The norm in boxing is to fight at a certain distance. If you look at Canelo does this, but not to the extreme that Matias does it. Canelo generally gets kind of close to you. He likes to fight on the line. He likes to force his range where he can hit you with what I call crooked shots, which is uppercuts and hooks, which is very extremely powerful shots. Canelo likes to hit you with the short right hands. He likes to hit you with them left hooks to the body and up top, right hooks, uppercuts from both sides. So Canelo likes to fight fairly close, and he forces his range. And Matias takes this to another level. Matias he fights in the pocket. That's where Matias is going to fight. And if you're just not used to fighting in the pocket, you're going to get worn down. And everybody that he's fought is just not used to that pace and that intensity of fighting in the pocket. It takes a lot of intensity. You're at a hyper intense mode, which it takes a lot of energy, and it saps your energy if you're not used to it. Matias uses his pace as a weapon. Matias uses his pace as a weapon. Matias is, he'll throw 100 punches a round, and if you're not throwing, he's going to be slamming you with right uppercuts and left hooks all day long, whether you want to or not. So Matias systematically breaks you down. Ergashev, he said, he had a tough time staying away from Matias, and by the 6th round, he was done. Ergashev said he felt the pain and he wasn't able to move. He just couldn't move around the ring for the last 2 rounds. I don't know if it was an injury, but if you can't move around against Matias, he's just gonna pummel you to death. So Ergashev said his legs gave out on him. Couldn't stick to the game plan. He wasn't able to move around the ring, use angles. He said he did it in the first 2 rounds, but everybody do it in the first 2 rounds against Matias. You know, that pace get to you. That pace get to you. You know, most people. So let's look at boxing as a form of running, as a race. So a 12-round boxing match. You know, old school boxers used to fight 15 rounds, and that was a long distance race. You know, a long distance race. You had to fight a 15 rounder as if you running, you know, a half a marathon. You know, you had to pace yourself. If you look at the fight with Hearns and the first fight with Leonard and Hearns, if it was a 12 rounder, Hearns would have won the fight. If that fight would have took place today and they were both in their primes, Hearns would have won that fight. If it was a 12-round fight. But it was a 15-round fight. You know, so, you know, you're running pretty much a half marathon if it, in a 15-round fight. So 12-round fight, you know, similar. You're running still a long distance run. You know, it's not a sprint. It's not a sprint. In amateurs, it's 3 rounds. So 3 rounds. So in amateurs, it's like running a 400-meter race. You know, 400 meters. You know, you kind of got to sprint. You know, it's maybe not all out, but it's a sprint. In a 12-round fight, it's not a 400 or 800-meter race or even a mile race. It's a long distance race. It's maybe, you know, 5K, you know, a good 5K race. You know, I don't know what's past 5K, but you understand what I'm saying. It's you know, you pace yourself, but the way Matias fights, he's at a pace at a 800-meter pace. You know, he's running an 800-meter pace for 10 miles, and people can't keep up that pace, and you get wore down, and eventually he beats you up. You know, Matias he's a specimen, and you know this was for the 140-pound strap. So who's at 140 pounds? Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney. You know, I don't think those guys is going for that belt. Matias is rated the 4th rated 140 pounder, according to Ring Magazine. Let me see who's rated higher than Matias. You got Teofimo Lopez, who's the champion, rated number 1, Josh Taylor. Rated number 2 is Regis Prograis. Rated number 3, Jose Ramirez. And the 4th rated is Matias, who's the IBF champion. Teofimo Lopez is the ring champion and the WBO champion. Prograis is fighting Haney for his WBC championship belt. Looking forward to that fight, by the way. Really looking forward to that fight. Wow, I mean, I'm very interested of what direction Matias is going to go from here. I'm very interested who will actually give Matias a fight. Teofimo has the WBO belt. Prograis has the WBC belt. So would a winner of Prograis and Haney try to unify with Matias? I don't see the WBA belt. I wonder who has the WBA belt. I had to look into it. But, you know, with one of these other champions try to unify with Matias, I'm sure Matias would definitely unify. You know, I have a feeling Matias gives 0 Fs, if you know what I'm saying. He'll go after anyone. There's other interesting fights. Again, like I say, the number 1 contender is Josh Taylor from the UK. You got Jose Ramirez. You know, maybe they'll want to try to come and get Matias IBF belt. You got Richardson Hitchens, who's behind Matias, according to the IBF. I mean, I'm sorry, not according to the Ring Magazine. You got Jack Catterall at number 6. So that's a name. Very interesting. They like to call out Gervonta Davis because, you know, that's a money fight. But where is Davis fighting at? 135. So I don't put much stock in calling out the smaller man. You know, I understand you want to make that money, but you know, he did call out Lopez, so we'll see. We'll see. Again, I'm a big fan of Subriel Matias. I'm a huge fan of him. I'm going to be very interested in what's his next step. Very excited. What a breath of fresh air. He is amazing to watch. So we'll see. We'll see. Okay. Last but not least was the Lamont Roach Jr. versus Hector Luis Garcia fight for Garcia's super featherweight title, his super featherweight WBA title. It's the second time in Roach's career that he fought for the title. So it was a close fight. It was a close fight. It was a very competitive fight. You know, a little bit slow. It was a good kickoff to the card though. A little slow. The thing that really struck me was how Garcia, you know, he just waited. You know, I know Garcia is a counterpuncher. That's his style, and you know, to me, he just waits too much. Just waits too much. You know, but that being said, you know, it went all the way down to the 12th round where Garcia got dropped, and it probably was the deciding factor of who won the fight. Roach won by split decision. Now during the fight, I commented that I believe that Roach Jr. was winning these rounds, but I did comment that these were close rounds. These were swing rounds. So it does depend on what the judges are looking at. You know, maybe the angle, you know, so I can't be mad at the closeness of the scorecards because, you know, I had it closer to the 116, 111 score for Lamont Roach Jr. But even I mentioned it earlier that these are close rounds. These are swing rounds. So it could swing the other way. And obviously to these judges, it did swing that other way. You know, like I say, Hector Luis Garcia, he likes to wait. He likes to counterpunch. And he's more experienced as far as he's a better showman. You know, he oppose, you know, he kind of hamming up for the crowd a little bit with his posing and his mean mugging, and you know, it might sway the judges in a close fight. So who knows? Who knows? Again, it was a close fight. It was a very competitive fight. The first two rounds, to me, Lamont Roach was a little anxious as far as, you know, because he was lunging in. He was lunging in a lot. And I was just thinking that if he continued to lunge in like that, Garcia is going to catch him. And he's going to catch him, and he's going to hurt him. But Roach Jr. settled down, kind of got into the flow of the fight, and he stopped lunging in, and he was more patient. He was more patient in his approach, and it paid off. I feel that Garcia is just too passive to me. Like I said, Garcia likes to counter, and he waits. And Roach, you know, off the time he made the fight by coming forward. Good fight to kick off the pay-per-view. You know, good warm-up fight. And congratulations to Lamont Roach Jr. There you have it, folks. It was a good pay-per-view card. I really enjoyed it. David Benavidez Jr., he's very impressive. You know, he's an amazing fighter. He really let the world know just how special he is. We all knew he was a very good fighter, you know, to a great fighter. But now I believe the world truly understands David Benavidez is a special fighter. He's a special fighter. There's a reason why he's avoided. He's the Mexican monster, and that name is, if that name fits, the name fits. So hats off to David Benavidez for that great win. Demetrius Andrade, you know, he came to fight, and he gave it his all. He just came up against a monster. You know, there's no shame in that. I believe he could bounce back, and I believe he has some more great fights in him. And I'm looking forward to seeing those fights. Hopefully he get them. You know, he deserves it. He's a good dude. Jermall Charlo, welcome back to boxing. You know, welcome back. He performed very well. He boxed very well. You know, his skills is still there. They don't seem diminished. He showcased really good boxing skills. You know, I had to give it to him. Physically, he's slightly diminished physically, but you know, after that long layoff, that's understandable. You know, hopefully he could work his way back to peak performance, you know, his peak physical potential. Hopefully he'll be able to work his way back there. And he'll be the old Jermall Charlo. You know, like I say, boxing is better with him in the game. So, good performance by Jermall Charlo, and courageous performance by Jose Benavidez Jr. He's a warrior, that's for sure. You know, he's a warrior. Hats off to my favorite fighter, my favorite current fighter, Subriel Matias. He's a Terminator. And I don't know what his nickname is, but he's a Terminator. He's relentless. He's the second coming of Henry Armstrong. He's the man. And he's relentless, and he will wear your ass down, and he's going to stop you. 6 corner stoppages in a row. That's unheard of. That's just unheard of. Again, he's relentless. He's a special fighter, and he's a fighter that I'm anxiously, I can't wait till he fight again. I just can't wait till he fight again. Congratulations to Lamont Roach Jr. for winning this super featherweight title from Hector Luis Garcia. It's a good fight, good performance by him. So, on to bigger and better things. Well, I'm Coach Carter for Zachary Carter TV. Thank you for watching this podcast. Please like and subscribe to the channel. We're out.